I've been kicked out of my near every bar around. I've been locked up for driving 120 through town. I've been shot at and cut with a knife, messing around with another man's wife. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Threw my boss out the window and got fired from my last job. Hot-wired a city truck and turned it over in the mayor's yard. Paid my brother-in-law half to death. Lost $20 on his football bet. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Good old boys, we're all the same. Ain't no...
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wade and Carter Show. Glad you're all here. Ash here, Brent still in Cabo enjoying life down there. So you're stuck with me for another day or two. And then Brent shall return. Let's see. Jordan Glass, Greg Garcia, Ricky King on the podium this morning. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. I'm not sure what to make of the Deerlam feed weather because the Wade and Carter weather has not been very accurate, and I don't know what to do. I'll take full responsibility for not calling the thunderstorms that popped up yesterday, but it looks like today we've got a better chance of rain. 74 degrees right now, heading to a high today of 87. 50-50 shot of rain. Thunderstorms expected this afternoon, so keep that in mind. Shouldn't get a lot of rain, but could see up to about 1/4 of an inch. A lot of people, it's interesting how time just kind of makes you forget things. We've been in such a drought for so long here that the river, the Guadalupe, has been really low. Now that it's up to where it has been, and it's high, don't get me wrong, it's higher than it has been in a long time, but checked it last night, still 3 feet below flood stage and not expected to continue to rise. So a lot of people panicking because the river's up. Pay attention to the forecast, folks. Probably the best thing you can do. I don't recall the forecasters ever being wrong on the Guadalupe River in Victoria. Pretty accurate stuff. 21 feet, I think, is flood stage. And last night when I checked it, it was sitting between 17 and 18. So still got a little ways to go, but all this is because of rain that has fallen below Canyon Lake, not what fell in the Kerrville area and above Canyon Lake. So let's see who else in this morning. Mark Kurtz, good morning to you. Will Vincent, Scott Tomko, Torrin Bales, Rena Scherer, Scott Snow, Bobby Leister, reminding us it is called on Wednesday. Get over to Veracruz today. Enjoy a steaming fresh bowl of caldo, the only day of the week that you can enjoy that. It's always on the menu, but you only get it on Wednesdays. So make sure you get there. And if you're looking for something else that you want to cook, get to the chopping block today. They've still got the $12.99 fillets, but also don't forget it's Whacking Wing Wednesday. $4.99 a pound, pre-marinated and seasoned wings, and they're ready to cook. All you got to do is take them home, dump them in your air fryer, throw them on your grill, put them on the pellet grill, your Blackstone, wherever you want to cook them. They're simply phenomenal. And they've got savory, tangy, sweet, spicy, any sort of wing flavor you like. They've got them at the chopping block, so get by there today. Patrick Strauss, good morning. Sherry Jacobs, good morning, Marina. Michelle Wilson-Hawkins checking in. Crystal Mapp, good to see you, Crystal. It's been a while. Linda Christ, James Kurth, stuck at DFW. He's traveling. Safe travels to you, sir. Lisa Poole, Mark Zapata, Torrin Bales had inch and a quarter in Myersville yesterday. Brian Hopping, good morning. Stephanie Connie, Scott Tomko, Andrew Alvarez, Marvin Mickish. Greg Garcia says God gave us common sense. Now, whether or not we use it, that's another thing. Yeah, let's start there because just when you think it can't get any worse on the left, it gets worse on the left. Any of you seen the stupid post that's going around, and I don't even know who made it. I'm not going to give them credit, but basically saying the only reason we feel sorry for what happened in the Hill Country because it was a bunch of white kids at a church camp. And that if it was Hispanic kids or black kids, we wouldn't give two rips about it. This is how idiotic and divisive the left has become in this country. I personally don't know anybody that has died or is missing. I've got friends who have family members missing. I don't know the people missing. Until I saw that idiotic post yesterday, my concern was for the people that were missing, those who died, the families grieving, the families without answers. Had nothing to do with anything other than that. And maybe these things hit harder when it is a child because there's so much life left. I don't know. But as a nation, collectively, tragedies when they hit children seem to hit a little harder. But there's parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins of all ages that perished in the Hill Country on July 4th and are still missing. Has nothing to do with who they are, where they came from, their race, the backgrounds, the privilege. Stop sharing these things, people. But the left has to tell you how to feel, how you should grieve, how you should do anything. It's ridiculous. I agree, Sherry. These people are idiots. Ricky King, a post about, and that's the other one. Mexico sent help. Well, from my understanding, there's been a decades-long pact between the U.S. and Mexico to provide aid to each other's countries when natural disasters strike. And again, they're trying to politicize this. They go, Trump wouldn't have sent anybody. But Sheinbaum did, so she's a great person. No, she's living up to the deal that previous leaders of Mexico and the U.S. agreed to. Glad the help is coming. But it's just idiotic. Buddy Stavanoa, good morning. Tom Price, the Iceman, Justin Switalski checking in. Funky Trey Molina, good morning. Good morning, Brent Anderson. Justin Glass. But really, really be careful who you're donating to in the wake of what happened in the Hill Country and specifically Kirk County, where there's still lots of people missing. And then saw yesterday some pretty harrowing footage out of Ruidoso, New Mexico, where there was some flash flooding. I don't think the human toll was anywhere near what it was here, but houses were swept away. But 3 people killed in the Ruidoso area. after they were swept away by floodwaters, according to the New York Times early this morning. So, yeah, just crazy weather right now. And that's all it is, folks. A couple of systems stall out over Texas. I'm sure that's playing or what's going on in New Mexico. But all these conspiracy theorists and everything else that's happening, it's just stop. Good morning, Jarrett. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I know there's things that our military, DARPA or whatever it's called, up in is it Alaska? I mean, they're trying to do things with the weather. Let's be honest. It's happening. The government's admitted it. Finally, years of denying it. The Honorable AJ Louderback checking in. Good morning to you, sir. But that's not what what is at play here, or what was at play here. Tommy Kingston checking in. Good morning to you. But stop sharing these posts. That'll help. You're not going to stop the idiot leftists that do this. But the virtue signaling in the wake of the tragedy is it's gotten rid. I mean, it's hitting new lows. And I didn't think the left could get any lower. But there they are telling us that we're only grieving because these are privileged white kids from rich families. And if it was black or Hispanic kids, we wouldn't give two rips. Absolutely garbage. But they've got nothing. They've got nothing. That's why they're doing this. They continue their divisiveness, and then they can't figure out why the Democrats can't get elected. I'll sum it up for you with one word: communism. That's what your party's devolved into. But again, I don't know of another state that rallies like Texas when tragedy hits. Texans are a different breed. Glad I'm living here. Tell you what we need to be a little bit more concerned about, in my opinion, are all of a sudden reports of 3 different attacks on ICE agents. This latest one that the details are just coming out in Alvarado, where 11 people, I think, were arrested. I don't know. It's too neatly wrapped up in a package with a bow on it. You know, they reportedly had anti-ICE propaganda with them. They spray painted ICE pigs on a car. They were all dressed in black. That's the one where I think they shot one of the ICE agents in the neck. Saw the mugshots of these folks. They look like a bunch of meth heads. But the fact that there's that one, there was the lone gunman, and then there was the report of 27 people being arrested for planning a similar attack. These things aren't, I can't imagine that these are all just unrelated incidents, that all these people have the same idea around the same time. So keep an eye on that a little bit more. I find it interesting that for all the Canadians that are thinking that Donald Trump was a little too extreme, to think that there weren't some threats of extremism or terrorism in Canada. 4 men with links to the Canadian military among those arrested and charged with planning to seize land near Quebec City. What authorities there are describing as an act of ideologically motivated violent extremism. It's quite a mouthful. Mounties in Canada say 3 of the men took concrete actions to facilitate terrorist activity and also face terrorism charges. Looks like all 4 out of Quebec somewhere. Now face a bunch of explosives and weapons charges. It's been going on for a couple of years before they made the arrest, so. Lots of weird things happening. And they'll all blame the right, but these aren't right-wing extremists. I don't know too many people who voted for Donald Trump or agree with his policies of deporting illegal immigrants, illegal aliens. We're planning attacks on ICE agents. Monica Jost asks, where's the money coming from for the ICE protesters to travel, lodging, meals? Yeah. She saw the mugshots as well. They are the privileged few. Yeah. I mean, honestly, looking at the mugshots, they don't look like they have an IQ of 85. I can't imagine they could put this thing together themselves, which makes you wonder who's actually doing their bidding. Come on, Lisa. Democrats aren't calling for the violence against ICE. This is the party of love, tolerance, respect, open viewpoints. Right? They're the tolerant party. At least they'll tell you that as they shut you down. They want open discourse and conversation as long as it all agrees with their points of view. But yeah, lots of warnings right now about scams, and this, this is the sad part of these tragedies, and it's not just those who are setting up GoFundMe's and walking away with the money or similar types of issues. Make sure you're giving to reputable organizations if you want to help the recovery efforts. Make sure you're giving to those where the majority of the money goes to the victims and to relief efforts. And unfortunately, if you have family and friends and loved ones in the area that will be rebuilding, I know it's overwhelming. Help them make good decisions to use reputable construction companies, restoration companies. Because as we learned with Harvey, the roofing company scams are going to come whipping through there. The housing company scams are going to go whipping through there. The companies that say that they can get rid of the water and remediate all the flood damage, they're going to go whipping through there. And most of them will have out-of-state plates. But you watch, 3 to 6 months from now, we're going to start hearing news stories about people who were ripped off by scammers who told them they were going to fix their home, Took the insurance check and they've never seen them since. Do not pay up front. Do not sign over that check to anybody. Make sure they're licensed and bonded. Make sure they're registered if they need to be. I know it's tough, but be patient. If a company you want to work with has a bit of a backlog in jobs, maybe just wait. Easier said than done, I know, but if you're fortunate enough to, survive this, don't want to see anybody scammed out of their insurance settlements either. Take a quick break and then let's move on to a few other things that are happening. Went services for all your electrical needs. Went will travel. If you are rebuilding in the hill country, give Went Services a call. They can provide backup generators. They can help you with all your needs, even down here, all the way to the valley. Their trucks are always blowing and going up and down 77. So give Went a call. They do a lot of great work in the region. They can provide you backup generators. They are a preferred Generac dealer, so they will give you the best deal on a Generac generator that they can. Paravita Wellness, we always say get in and get healthy. Great meals. They make really good meatballs. If you can get the meatball meal, it's phenomenal. Had that last night for dinner. Stop by and see them on Airline or hit the new Vita Cafe up by Detour North, just off Main. Brunch this weekend, breakfast this weekend. They've got the full menus, breakfast, lunch, and brunch menus on Saturday and Sunday. So check out the Vita Cafe and Paravita Wellness. That's an offer on atsanoffer.com. For all your new and pre-owned vehicle purchases, check out That's an Offer. If the flags are flying, people are buying brand new Chevrolets, Mitsubishis. Don't forget they also service any make or model, and they've got the best body shop in town. They can fix any car that's been involved in a fender bender. Doesn't matter the make. They know what they're doing. They'll get it done. Palace Bingo, where friends meet friends. The 24th of the month is where we will be. Meeting all our Wade and Carter friends for bingo night again. Always a fun time. We'll try to do a little extra at this one. So come on out and join us in Allen's Wrecker Service. As you travel through the area, if perchance you need a wrecker, blowout tire, stuck on the side of the road, fender bender, Allen's will come. And they will save the day. They are always the one that Brent and I call whenever we need a tow, a jump, locked out of a car. They can do it all. They're awesome folks over at Allen's Wrecker Service. Janet and Ellen will have you taken care of pronto. Kathleen Leininger says Samaritan's Purse is on site. The Red Cross will take your money with very little showing of it for the showing up for the flood victims. I know the Salvation Army is very busy, and they are on site as well. So just once again, cautionary tales. Travelers are going to like this one. The TSA announcing it is unwinding the decades-long policy of requiring passengers who are not TSA pre-check to take off their shoes at airport security lines. Didn't roll out all at once, but has rolled out in some airports and expected to expand over the week. I think they're starting it off at larger airports and then and then going from there. So the biggest complaint is just it slows things down. And you'll recall this was all in the wake of the reported shoe bombing, when that idiot tried to ignite explosives he had hidden in his shoes. But this will speed things up. Good news for travelers. Still got to take your laptops out and take your belt off and all that stuff. But wonder what it'll do for those of you who are pre-check. Last time I traveled, and I've been TSA pre-check for a few years, but I've noticed more and more people are pre-check, so it doesn't really have the benefit of skipping the lengthy check-in lines or security lines it used to have. So I don't know. Any of you following this Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. deportation? I find it interesting that they let him fight against Jake Paul and then went after him to deport him for being in the country illegally. He's wanted in Mexico. Mexico wants him back to face charges of being tied in with the cartel. Yeah, Torrin Bale says folks traveling wearing slippers will be happy. Yeah, I'm not sure there's a worse place to be in bare feet. Well, there is a worse place to be in bare feet. That would be a restroom at a truck stop or something. But I don't know. I just can't. I can't travel in flip flops for that reason. Bare feet in the airport, just it's cringeworthy. Jared McCrugen, the Batman belt bomb was very common. The Batman shark repellent. I'll never forget that episode. That was a movie, I think, wasn't it? 2-hour movie. Jonathan Williams says Mercy Chefs are also an amazing group that were on the ground almost immediately. Diddy going to be sentenced in October. Will be remaining in jail as he awaits sentencing on prostitution charges. That from the Who Really Cares file. The 14th Amendment was ratified on this day. Back in 1868. Supreme Court, folks. This is an interesting ruling. Supreme Court lifted a judge's order preventing the Trump administration from conducting mass layoffs across federal bureaucracy for now, anyway. 8-1. You can imagine the one Supreme Court justice that did not go along with the majority in this. And Ketanji Brown Jackson had another lengthy dissent that nobody agreed with on her. I don't think this is as much about the government being able to lay people off. And let's not forget that Ronald Reagan laid a lot of people off. And there was no Supreme Court pushback, or there was no federal district judge pushback, court pushback. There were no court lawsuits filed. That's where we are. We're talking 45 years from when presidents had the ability to conduct the business of this country as the executive branch without being nitpicked and overseen by a bunch of justices who are appointed and think they now run the country. Court's ruling states we express no view on the legality of any agency RIF and reorganization plan produced or approved pursuant to the executive order and memorandum. But basically, this means it's a major victory for the Trump administration. Even Justice Sotomayor got after Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was the lone dissenter, 8-1. She reminded Jackson that the court can only opine on what's been presented before them, not what they think is being presented before the body. Here's what Sotomayor said, concurring in the grant of stay. I agree with Justice Jackson that the president cannot restructure federal agencies in a manner inconsistent with congressional mandates. Here, however, the relevant executive order directs agencies to plan reorganizations and reductions in force consistent with applicable law. And the resulting joint memorandum from the Office of Management and Budget and Office of Personnel Management reiterates as much. The plans themselves are not before this court at this stage, and we thus have no occasion to consider whether they can and will be carried out consistent with the constraints of law. I join the court's stay because it leaves the district court free to consider those questions in the first instance. So basically, as I understand this action by the Supreme Court, is agencies have been directed to seek out ways where they can reduce their workforce to save money, get rid of people that no longer are efficient. And I'm not convinced that a lot of agencies are going to start self-identifying folks to get rid of. I mean, this is the federal government after all. I just don't see it happening. I hope I'm wrong. But I think there's too many federal agencies that are run by too many folks on the left, and they're not going to be too eager to start cutting jobs and get rid of the friends that they have hired in these positions to give them cushy, lifelong appointments with no accountability and no results to speak thereof. But like I said, I think the bigger victory out of the Supreme Court on this one is the fact that they're once again neutering these federal judges who think that they are running the show. And it just continues to show how out of touch and how Ketanji Brown Jackson is just I don't know, how do you get rid of a Supreme Court justice? I mean, she's terrible. Even when she sides with the other two liberal leftist judges on the Supreme Court, they don't even agree with her position on the dissent. And I mean, I'm surprised this was an 8-1. When Bale says we can impeach her, I don't know what the process is for that. I guess through the Senate, maybe, since they confirmed them. Well, CNN reporting that someone is using AI to impersonate Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and apparently it's fooling foreign ministers, as well as one of our governors and a member of Congress. This is the scary part about AI and remember a few years ago when people would call their grandparents or supposed grandparents to try to scam them out of money, saying they were in a foreign country traveling, they were in jail. It was a scam that was going around about the time of all these Nigerian bank scams where the prince had offered you ungodly sums of money. And all you had to do was accept a wire transfer into your bank account or send them a Western Union for 10% of what you were going to get. Well, there's some increased reports of AI doing the same thing with voices, because if your voice is anywhere out there on the internet, people are able to recreate it with AI. And now someone using AI to impersonate Marco Rubio, or Secretary of State, has contacted, like I said, at least 5 people that we know of. Even went so far as to create an account on Signal. And we're trying to get folks to communicate with them on Signal. No word on any communications between any government officials and the fake Rubio, but apparently they've traced this back to Russia. Surprise. Oh, speaking of which, Comey and Brennan now under investigation for their role in all the Russia collusion stuff. So we'll see what happens there. Probably nothing. I just don't think anything's going to happen. Jonathan Williams says only one Supreme Court Justice, Samuel Chase, has been impeached, though he was acquitted by the Senate. House initiates the impeachment process. Okay. Thank you for that, Jonathan. Appreciate that. Kathleen Leininger says, hope they can impeach, tying it to the auto pen and no connection or awareness by Biden. Yeah, that'd be interesting if they could find out that it wasn't really Biden who made the nomination. What would that do for the whole process? There's Renee Medding checking in. Would that invalidate it all? Because the Senate then confirms, right? But if somehow we find out along the way that Joe Biden didn't actually nominate her because he didn't have the mental capacity to do so, it's an interesting question. But does anybody have confidence we're ever going to find out anything related to? I mean, that just kind of died, right? The left basically said, yeah, okay, we knew Biden was incompetent and he used an auto pen and didn't really know what he was doing most of the time. I have no confidence we're ever going to find out who actually was calling the shots during the Biden administration. Just don't see it happening, unfortunately. Oh, let's see what else is happening. The U.S. moving to ban Chinese ownership of farmland, according to Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins. I think some states have already taken action on this, including Texas. Tough one. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, I understand it in some ways because you can't trust the Chinese Communist Party and any Chinese businesses tied to the Chinese Communist Party. But if they're saying it's in the name of trying to keep American farmers in business, that ship sailed a long time ago, folks. Ag Secretary Rollins says a panel will review foreign acquisitions for national security risks. So she'll join that panel, actually, that will review those transactions. So interesting. Trump administration is going to work with states and use executive actions to ban ownership of U.S. agriculture by Chinese and nationals of other adversaries. Makes sense. People act like this is new. We didn't allow the Soviet Union to do anything in this country back in the day. But because we've allowed China into the G8 or into the G7 to make it the G8, that all is good because we get all our cheap trinkets and goods from China, that we should just trust them? I don't get why we have to always play nice with everybody, especially those that absolutely hate our guts, like the Chinese Communist Party. Yet all we do is roll over and take it. They come over here. They infiltrate our universities and our think tanks. They take back all of our trade secrets and proprietary information that our researchers' dollars have paid for, and they hightail it out of the country. And then they go and build everything that we were researching and building with none of the constraints that our patents and trademarks have, and then sell it to the rest of the world for pennies on the dollar. And then all we do in the aftermath is go, oops, we got duped again. Chinese students that we let in went back to China with all of our research. We'll get to that a little bit here, Jonathan. We're going to get to the Astros report in just a minute, but a couple other things I want to talk about. So let's take a break, and then we'll get to the rest of this stuff. USA Concrete Coatings, don't forget to give them a call for all your concrete coating needs, whether you've got patios, garage floors, craft rooms, sidewalks, driveways. Charlie and his gang can come out and put down a tough as nail polyurethane coat that won't crack, stick, peel, or fade. It'll stick to the floor. It ain't going to stick to your tires, is what I'm saying. No longer will you slip on a slick garage floor. Your pool deck will be nice. Cowboys fans, get that Cowboys logo down in your back patio just in time to be disappointed once again. White Trash Services for all your trash collection needs in Victoria County and the contiguous counties. Lake McQueeney, Reno, Nevada, Orlando, Florida. They're just expanding everywhere. White Trash has you covered. Weekly trash collection in the country. Roll-offs, dumpsters, site services. They can do all your demolition. They'll handle all your demolition needs, whether in the county or in the city. And check out the Dollar Floor Store, the Floor Trader, for all of your flooring needs. 99 cents a square foot. That's where prices start, sometimes even a little lower than that. Great selection. Always enough for your flooring project, plus so you can have a little bit on hand because, you know, if you're putting down tile and one chips, you want to be able to replace it. So you always want a couple in the attic. Check out the Dollar Floor Store on Navarro. You want help with your website, your search engine optimization? Give Commander Cody a call at Brand Us. He can help you do all of that stuff. Great stuff that he does. And if you want office space, come by the offices at 205. That's where we are. Give John Paul or James a call, and they can let you tour this great space. Really nice offices up here. And there's still room, so you could be our neighbor. Although we're out of here by the time most businesses get going anyway, so you wouldn't actually have to interact with us if you didn't want to. Let's see what else is happening in the world today. A couple of things I want to get into that are interesting. NHL, the latest pro sports league to expand the regular season at the sacrifice of a couple of preseason games. Hockey half minute. NHL going to 84 regular season games from 82. And shaving off a couple of preseason games, which nobody cares about anyway. Going to be interesting to see what happens now that there's a tariff, or Donald Trump unveiled a plan to impose tariffs on copper. Remember a few years back when all these construction sites were getting thieved of all the copper and wiring in houses? I wonder if we're going to see that again. Yeah, the move by the Ag Secretary will basically allow or stop anybody who's an adversary from owning foreign or owning land, farmland. So we'll see what happens. Senate Bill 17, that's right, Jonathan Williams, that would make Chinese ownership of land in Texas illegal, going into effect on September 1st. What to make of the Epstein? I mean, boy, it really seems like there's a lot of bluster on this, right? People saying that Ghislaine Maxwell now needs to be out of prison. Don't forget, she was charged with helping Jeffrey Epstein satisfy his sick urges with kids by grooming and providing minors to Jeffrey Epstein. She wasn't charged and convicted of providing minor girls to other people. So that's why she's in prison for 20 years. She conspired with Jeffrey Epstein to sexually abuse minors. But I'm not convinced that with all the comings and goings on Epstein Island, that all these minors were strictly for Jeffrey Epstein's pleasure. And I think that's why Pam Bondi, who, when she took office, if my memory serves me correct, said she had a list of Epstein's clients on her desk, and we were going to know who was in on it. But I think that's the problem. I think there's names on that list that would upset the Washington, D.C. elite, upset the balance of power around the world. I was reading an article this morning where Jeffrey Epstein actually was used as an intelligence agent by our government. Imagine if that was the case. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I mean, geez. This is a guy, by all accounts, was a pedophile and a predator. Linda, that's a pretty common sentiment, but I'm not sure it's true. Linda says if Trump was on the list would have been out 2 years ago. I don't think so. Because Trump wouldn't have been the only one on that list. That list would have been exposed. There's no way you were going to be able to just release Donald Trump's name on that list. And we all know he's been on the flight manifests. A lot of people have. But I mean, I thought the president got a little bit too aggressive with screaming at a reporter who asked Pam Bondi about the Epstein files and the Epstein list. I'll take it a step further, Jonathan. Jonathan Williams says, I think in the end, when they looked at the list, they realized that it would have caused massive harm to the country, so they quashed it. I think it goes a step further. I think it would have caused massive harm to the entire world. Dan Bongino made a living talking about the Epstein files before he was named deputy director of the FBI. He had his own podcast and talk show. Now he's saying nothing there. There's nothing there. I don't really know where Kash Patel stood before he was named director of the FBI on this. I listened to him on Joe Rogan yesterday, and I seem convinced. I'm fairly convinced he's telling it straight up. I don't know where he was beforehand. But I don't know. Remember that there was a time in this country where you just didn't, we didn't question the government the way we do now. But yeah, I'm with you, Zed Stewart. I think this goes a whole lot further than just harming this country. But I think President Trump was way offside yesterday in chastising a reporter who asked about it, saying that there was enough going on with the wins and the tragedies in this state that we didn't have to talk about Epstein. Your FBI released this stuff earlier this week. If it's so inconsequential, then your FBI shouldn't have picked this week to release this stuff. It was a fair question at a fair time because Pam Bondi was sitting in the room And I've told you, I'm going to call our president out when he's offside. He's way offside on this one. He got really defensive on this one. And I know we all cheer when he chastised reporters who were being idiots, but this reporter was not being an idiot. This was a legit question. In response to something that the FBI and the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, was involved in the release of the information. The question was more than fair, regardless of whatever else is going on in the world or in this country at this time. If you were so concerned about that, then the FBI should have sat on this for another week until the tragedy in the Hill Country was beyond us. But yeah, I disagree with President Trump on this one. He was offside in chastising this reporter. Tells me that there's something to hide. And it may not be for him, but it may be for the betterment of society. But boy, he went a little too far on that one. And I'm thinking the only reason they went after Ghislaine Maxwell for aiding and abetting Jeffrey Epstein is because they couldn't have made charges stick against somebody else, or they did not want to bring others into the limelight on this one. But it makes me wonder if Dan Bongino was full of it then or full of it now. Because he talked about the Epstein file constantly. And now there's nothing to report, no names to be released. I'm not going to make excuses for Trump like that, Stephanie, that he's got a lot going on. I was probably unaware why he attacked like that. No. He knows exactly why. Astros update brought to you by the First State Bank of Louise. We'll wrap it up with the Astros update this morning. Astros lose in extra innings to Cleveland, 10-6. Fought back to tie it up at 6. Only to lose in the 10th. Not sure what's going on. Well, I'll tell you what I think is going on. When the Astros are winning, and they got the third best record in the major leagues. I'm not saying we got to panic here, but you're losing to a Cleveland team that maybe is getting to be a better team. Maybe they're playing like the team that they were last year, the team that surprised a lot of people, team that made the playoffs. But the Astros struggling to score runs early and also giving up runs early, and they're playing from behind. Hunter Brown did not have his best stuff. And all the accolades on the broadcast before that, but Hunter Brown did not look very well. Or very good yesterday. And I don't think there's anything more than it was just a bad outing. 6 innings, gave up 6 earned runs, walked 3 and struck out 3. Threw 91 pitches, so his pitch count wasn't extremely high, but he wasn't striking people out like he does. And they were hitting him pretty hard. Three different Guardians had home runs yesterday. And Cleveland wins at 10-6. They'll wrap up that series today. 7:10 start at Dyken Park. Hopefully the Astros can salvage this one because this would I think the Major League draft happens around the All-Star break now, Jonathan, so next week. And don't forget, they've shortened it to 20 rounds or whatever it is, so it's not the 45-round behemoth it used to be. But little teaser. I'd be surprised. I would be surprised if you didn't see a UHV Jaguar or 2 or 3 get drafted this year. Been a lot of interest not only around Brady Parker, but we've had some inquiries from Major League Baseball asking for information about a couple of other Jaguars players. So that's pretty cool. It's interesting. We haven't had that at UHV as long as I've been there. So it's exciting. But yeah, hopefully the Astros can salvage this series because this will be the first series they've lost. Well, it is the first series they've lost in a long time. And then they start a weekend series at home against the Texas Rangers. And that'll be the last home games before the All-Star break. And then they will be off until I believe it's next Friday. So there you go. Appreciate you all tuning in this morning. And don't be afraid to comment. Don't be afraid to bring up topics for tomorrow. But I'll be back here tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday already. Wow. Called on Wednesday, get by Veracruz today. Also, Wacky Wing Wednesday. Stop by the chopping block, pick up some wings. They'll keep till the weekend as well, marinated if you want to cook them on Friday and you don't want them tonight. But great wings at the chopping block. Fillets on sale while they last. Get them while they're hot. And we'll see you all manana. Bye, folks.